All right, Pokemon fans, we are back, and we have the second round of the U.S. Nationals TCG here. We're joined with two players. They're going to go ahead and introduce themselves, let you know how long they've been playing the game, and we'll probably go into how their first round went. So go ahead, introduce yourself, and where are you from, how long you've been playing?
My name's Chris Fulop. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been playing since 1998.
Cleveland, Ohio. And how about yourself?
My name is Caleb Johnson. I'm from Plano, Texas, and I've been playing for about 4 years since Black and White came out.
All right, so we have some people that have been involved with the game for a while now. If you mind, how did your first round go, each of you? I'll start with you.
Played against my friend Taylor, actually, and a couple close games. She got a little bit unlucky, so I managed to pull them both out, but it was actually a real fun match.
So you're currently 1-0 in yourself?
Same. My match went pretty quick, actually, because sometimes you just get those bad starts, and that's what happened to my opponent both rounds. I actually started bad, and he ended me into a good hand, and he just ended himself into really bad. So, I mean, it happens in any game, and it can happen in any game. So,
yeah, especially a card game. It's a little bit of the luck of the draw, how you start out, and your opponent helping you out with an end is definitely nice when you look at your hand and you're like, oh, this is going to be rough, and then you're fine. We're going to ask you real quick what decks you guys are playing. We kind of heard it before from our casters, but what decks you're playing, how you feel about this matchup?
Well, yeah, Kyle kind of, we could hear the announcers while we were setting up here that we're both playing Crobat decks. Different Crobat decks is all we know. I'll spoil it. I'm playing Landorus Crobat, and I actually don't even like my deck very much, but I couldn't come up with anything I liked a little bit more, and it's going to be one of the, I haven't done a lot of mirror match testing, so I'm going to kind of wing this and try to feel it out as I go. So.
Nice. All right. So we have, in your deck, what is it?
I'm actually playing Seismitoad Bats, and honestly, I can't say it's a better matchup because anything can happen in the card game, and I've lost, I've won, so it's fair game on both sides.
Definitely. All right, so we have two 1-0s. They're going to sit down, take their seats, get ready to play this out, and we're going to bring it back to our casters to go ahead and cast this match.
All right, we're getting ready to go. Both players are going to sit down, start shuffling up, and start this matchup.
Yeah, and as you heard, Chris Fulop's been playing, I think he said since 1998. So
that's as long. That is the start.
Yes.
You cannot be playing longer than that unless maybe you grew up in Japan and started when they got the trading card.
So he is as experienced as you can get in this game, and of course, like we said, won several tournaments, including the national championships. He might be pushing to try to be the first two-time U.S. national champion.
Hey, if anybody came close, it was you. But maybe you'll get to see history in the making. Your final national guard will be torn down. But,
all right.
Based on this matchup, Chris is going to have to pull out a few tricks.
Yeah, so it looks like we're ready for round number 2. Let's get excited, everyone. Round 2 of the Pokemon TCG National Championships between Chris Fulop and Caleb Johnson.
All right, we're getting batty today. Big Crobat lines on both sides, all about them sneaky and surprise bites in order to drop extra damage counters down just by evolving and not by attacking.
Yeah, and Chris, starting off with your favorite Josh, Hawlucha.
Hawlucha, oh, right up against a Seismitoad. That's where you want him.
Yeah, and I mean, Hawlucha is exactly what you want to start with. Going up against Seismitoad EX, which is exactly what Caleb wants to start with. So looks like so far both players getting exactly what they want.
So Chris has got all kinds of interesting cards here. We've seen things like there's a Miltank in his deck that allows him to, deal a lot of damage on one energy and sort of fight against these Seismitoad decks.
Right. Miltank, the card we've seen a lot with Empoleon, sometimes can be featured in these Crobat decks sometimes, since Miltank does powerful friends, 10 plus 70 damage if you have a Stage 2 Pokemon on your bench. Of course, Crobat is a Stage 2 Pokemon, so sometimes we see players throw a Miltank in with a Crobat deck that's, hey, 1 energy, 80 damage, that's not bad.
So I don't know if you've heard this before, but we are starting the game by playing the N supporter.
Yeah, N has been featured in competitive play past 4 years at least.
It's also like the Darkrai Survivor that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Just a card that's been so strong for so long.
Yeah, and something that's interesting, at the last regional championships, we saw a lot lower counts of N in everyone's decks. We saw even people go down to like 1 N in their deck, and that's just because Shaman EX and Lysander's Trump card allows you to draw through your whole deck very quickly. Now, players are going back up. We see 3, 4 N in a lot of decks again. And it's just because it's so easy to disrupt your opponent, and it's a very reliable draw card at the beginning of the game.
It is, and it seems like the theme of every deck is have a couple Shaman, but don't overload your deck. We see, I think, 2 Shaman on both of these players' sides. So thankfully, I don't think we'll have turns that run for 10 minutes now.
I hope not. So we see Ultra Ball Chris actually opting to discard that Miltank so that he can get another Zubat into play. And, he does have Hawlucha up there. He's going to play this Versus Seeker to get back a supporter. He wants to play that item card before Quaking Punch happens. So far, pretty intelligent play from Chris, and he's going to have to pass the turn. He's going first, so he can't attack.
Yeah, the only rough thing that can come out of this is your Hawlucha sort of has to take an attack here to start things off. I'm checking through Caleb's list. If he does get the perfect Muscle Band, Double Colorless Energy, Hypnotoxic Laser, then all of a sudden your Hawlucha is falling in one single attack, which is a huge bummer. I almost wonder, sometimes it's like, do I keep this Hawlucha or do I retreat it and sacrifice a bat?
Right, and looks like Caleb's halfway there. He's got the Burbank City Gym and the Muscle Band, plays an Ultra Ball, dumps his hand entirely, and he'll grab a Shaman EX. This is going to be a setup for the full 6 cards, so he's got a pretty decent shot of finding that Double Colorless and Hypnotoxic Laser. If he can get that turn 1 knockout on Hawlucha, Chris is going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, he has to throw up a bat, and then what? You can evolve bats, I guess get another Hawlucha and an energy. That's your main strat. And here we go, Setup and Shaman drawing 6 cards. He also hasn't played a supporter, right?
Right.
I don't actually know if we saw a double, but Super Scoop Up, if he flips heads, tails. A lot of players use dice. Another Super Scoop Up, heads this time. Evens are heads, tails are odds.
Yeah. Looks like Caleb actually drew a pretty poor hand off of that setup, so he's actually pretty fortunate to hit heads on one of those Super Scoop Up. Finally, looks like he draws an N off of those 2 cards, so he'll at least have a supporter card to play this turn. Another Ultra Ball coming in. I wonder if he'll grab that second Shaman EX or if he'll go with something else.
And one interesting thing I see is he discards a Water Energy. I actually haven't seen those in Seismitoad decks since the sort of the rise of the Shaman. The big reason was, well, if I can just recycle my Double Colorless Energies endlessly, I don't have to worry about them. So I would just see 4-double, 4-double. Here, you can actually sort of pad your deck with a few more energy since those could just get discarded. Got 4 Water Energy as well.
Right, so we are going to see Caleb play an N. He's got one more opportunity to draw. I think at the very least he would like to draw Double Colorless Energy so he can start using Quaking Punch. The whole strategy of Seismitoad EX is use Quaking Punch forever until you win. And I'm sure he would love to do that on the first turn. He'd like to get at least that. If he pairs it with Hypnotoxic Laser, he'll take a really big lead in this game.
Yeah, he's seen quite a few cards through his deck, so to go this deep in and not find the double yet can be a little disheartening. Let's see, though. Getting 6 new cards, and who knows what he gets off of those.
Yeah, this is going to be a big turn. If Chris gets another turn of item cards, that could be devastating.
I see a water. I don't think I see a double.
But I do see
computer search.
Do you see a nice computer that can fetch you that Double Colorless Energy?
Oh, man, just downloads it straight from his deck. Yeah, computer search, blast from the past, still, in many people's eyes, the strongest ace spec card that you can run.
Yeah, Chris has been seeing that card since 1998.
Right? All the way back to base set, but it's back. You can only run 1 in a single deck now, but it's still really good. Searching your deck for any card, I just can't think of turns where you have computer search in your hand and it's not helpful.
Yeah, so Chris did not want to see that.
Laser too.
Yeah, Caleb getting the first turn knockout with that Quaking Punch. You might say, it just does 30. How did that happen? Muscle Band adds 20 more damage. Then we have Hypnotoxic Laser for the poison. Burbank City Gym adds 2 more damage counters. So in total, that ends up being 80 damage, knocking out that Hawlucha.
Turns out I made a pretty safe wager when I said I would not be surprised if we saw some Hypnotoxic Lasers today. It was the next game.
Yeah.
It's just such a powerful card combined with Burbank City, and even stronger combined with Seismitoad because it's already disrupting you.
Right, so Chris going with the double Golbat right away actually knocks out one of Caleb's Zubat with those 2 Sneaky Bite abilities. Just get to place 2 damage counters down and says, you know what, I'm going right after your Zubat.
So
it gets a knockout without even attacking.
We saw a moment Chris tried to attach a Muscle Band to his Hawlucha. He wants to deal that extra damage. Actually has strong energy on Hawlucha. sort of your dream with Hawlucha is to deal as much damage as possible. Off of just one energy, but Caleb says no. No way, man. I did Quaking Punch.
Yeah. Yeah, worth the try to sneak one past him. But yeah, Hawlucha coming out with that strong energy. He'll be able to use Flying Press. Looks like for 80 damage. I'm sure he would have loved to get a Fighting Stadium out there to hit for 100 damage, but looks like he's just going to have to settle for that 80 damage Flying Press.
Yeah, it can set up those perfect 2-hit knockouts. It's still a 3-hit knockout otherwise. And we see another Hypnotoxic Laser, which means this Hawlucha is going to fall in a single attack.
We get the empty hand, Professor Sycamore high five from both players, drawing the full 7, not having to discard any of them. If Caleb can find his Golbat, he can kind of do the same thing Chris just did and use 2 Golbat abilities to knock out a Zubat. We'll see if he can pull that off.
This bat on bat violence has to stop.
All right, we do see another Quaking Punch knockout, so 2 turns, 2 prizes for Caleb. And 2 Hawlucha in the discard for Chris. So far, things aren't looking so good.
Not at all. Even though he started Hawlucha, which is really nice, I almost feel like Hawlucha sort of has a little bit more strength going second, just because you get that first attack right away. You can start applying pressure through damage counters. Just having Hawlucha floating there in the active spot meant that Chris sort of just had to eat a knockout.
Yeah. So here we're going to see Crobat with the Surprise Bite. This one does 3 damage counters. And a second Crobat. So he is targeting down Caleb Zubat and gets another knockout, takes 2 bats out, and he's kind of going with the strategy. You know, if you don't get to use Golbat and Crobat, I don't think you do enough damage to beat me. So he's going to try to go with that strategy.
We see a Colress, not the most exciting one, only being able to shuffle in and draw 4 cards. He's in a weird spot. He could have drawn more if that Zubat was still alive, but then he's also not playing the Crobat from hand. Right. Here, you know, Crobat is still fairly bulky at 130 HP for a non-EX. It can sort of just take a bunch of damage and perhaps, you know, just do a couple of skill dives, finish off the rest of the Seismitoad. Or buy time, I guess, until you can find more Hawluchas. Oh, found it, but no energy.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good strategy on Chris's side to take out the Zubat while he can. After the Lysander's trump card ban, you're limited to 4 Hypnotoxic Lasers, and those are the big damage output cards for Seismitoad EX, right? Quaking Punch does 30, 50 with a Muscle Ban. Without Hypnotoxic Laser, that's 3 hits to take 1 prize on a Crobat. So if you can just run your opponent out of those Hypnotoxic Laser, and you took away the damage from Golbat and Crobat, all of a sudden they're not doing much damage, and you buy a lot of time to do your own attacks.
So on Caleb's side, we see Lysander, Hypnotoxic Laser. This Hawlucha is falling, and it is depressing.
Well, it's barely living thanks to Fighting Stadium. There's no more Burbank City
Burbank's
Gym.
Gone.
But Chris doesn't have anything, has to retreat and pass. But again, Crobat has 130 HP. 3 Hypnotoxic Lasers are gone from Caleb. He's only got 1 left in his deck, and after that, it's just straight Quaking Punch, no additional damage.
So yeah, we're seeing Caleb sort of just trying to find the resources to deal with the rest of Fulop's sort of ragtag brigade. He's got a few Pokemon, not a lot of damage, but he has actually grabbed himself a couple of prize cards to stay competitive out of bats only.
Yeah, and I think at this point he probably wishes he had that Miltank. Oop, we see a little bit of a flub there with a cut, revealing one of Caleb's super scoop-ups, but just going to have him shuffle again.
And you can tell both these players very relaxed attitude toward the game. They're just like, oh whoops, I'll shuffle again. I've played against Chris many, many times, and he's always been very chill about playing the Pokemon.
So now we're going to see Caleb with the Colress for 5 cards. I'm not sure exactly what he's going to be trying to find. You know, if he finds a Hypnotoxic Laser, does he really want to waste it on a Crobat?
It's rough. Also, you know, the Crobats can just retreat.
Right.
So it's not like you're sticking them with constant poison damage.
And now we see Sacred Ash, a card that's gotten a lot more play after Lysander's Trump card got banned. Sorry, we keep harping on that fact, but it really is a big change to the game.
It's a big deal. We haven't had a ban essentially ever in this era of the Pokemon trading card game over the last 10 years.
Right. But Sacred Ash allows you to shuffle 5 Pokemon from your discard pile back into your deck. So he gets back all those Zubat that Chris knocked out. That'll give him an opportunity to use Golbat and Crobat again later on.
It's a little mini trump card.
Right.
But it's also not your supporter.
Yeah. And here we just see the Quaking Punch for 50 damage. Chris has a handful of item cards, so he cannot play any of them. He's just going to have to pass the turn. The only bright side is, he's going to have a few turns just with those big 130 HP Crobat.
So now we do see the Hypnotoxic Laser on Caleb's side. He can get a knockout on Crobat if he finds the Burbank City Gym.
Yeah. But, if he doesn't, that's kind of a waste of your last Hypnotoxic Laser. Just doing the 10 from Poison, you'll leave Crobat with 20 HP left. He can just retreat. So a bit of a risk from Caleb here. He's going to have to fish out that Burbank City Gym to take advantage of this.
And one thing that I've noted here is that Seismitoad EX on the bench even has a water. We might actually see a Grenade Hammer close out this game.
Yeah,
you don't hear it often, but it is an option that you have every once in a while. Just being able to deal 130 damage. That's I see 130 on both sides of the field. Might one-shot a Crobat at some point.
Right.
It ends the lock, so it's typically the last attack you'll do in a game. But it is an option I see Caleb developing.
Yeah, so we see Caleb playing an Ultra Ball for a Golbat, so he can use Sneaky Bite once again. I wonder if he'll go after that Hawlucha, just take the free prize on that, or if he goes after the active Crobat. It looks like, he's going after the Hawlucha.
Yeah, that seems to be the biggest threat. Chris needs to find a fighting energy to actually do anything with it. But now it hits the dust. I think that's his last Hawlucha now.
Yeah, 3 of them are gone. Chris just going to retreat to his Crobat and pass the turn. He's buying time, but he doesn't have much left. There is another Crobat surprise bite. Caleb is down to just 1 prize. If he can manage to use that Grenade Hammer attack, it'll be over.
Yeah, and it is asking a little bit. You still got to retreat the active Seismitoad to create it, but it's at least something that's there. A Super Scoop Up could do the deal, something like that. But if you're Chris, it's just rough. He got a lot of bats, but he really didn't draw very well, and this is a matchup where you kind of have to.
Right, so we do see Versus Seeker. Caleb gets to play those item cards. He's not being affected by Quaking Punch. He's going to take full advantage of that by playing Professor Sycamore.
Here's a Super Scoop Up. If he hits heads, did not get it. We were going to see a Grenade Hammer.
Yeah, it could have happened on heads. That would have been game over. Has that water energy in hand, ready to use that attack. And at this point, Chris has to be looking at this and probably thinks it's game over. Draws another item card, has to pass the turn again. But being an experienced player, he's going to take full advantage of this first game. He's going to try to see how many of each card Caleb plays so he has information for the next at least 1 game, possibly 2.
Yeah, that's often a tactic that a lot of veteran players will do. You have free access to your opponent's discard pile. You can always check and see what cards are in there. Why not at least scout it out?
Right, and then we see the retreat and
Kaboom.
The Grenade Hammer for the knockout. So Caleb takes game number 1. Seismitoad EX still pretty strong.
Yeah, even though both these players are running sort of the bat base, I feel like Seismitoad in particular has a pretty good matchup against the fighting decks. Yes, Hawlucha does have a chance, but that chance really depends on whether or not they're getting that turn 1 Quaking Punch.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to whether or not you can knock out Hawlucha in 1 hit. If you get the perfect double Colorless Energy, Muscle Band, Laser, Verbank, you can knock out Hawlucha in 1 hit.
Yeah, he got that a couple of times.
Yeah, and Golbat makes it a little easier too if you can put 2 damage counters on Hawlucha. That's probably what swings this matchup into Caleb's favor. But if Hawlucha can get 2 attacks off, it's usually trading pretty well with Seismitoad.
And just looking at Chris's side of the field, there's a lot of cards in here that we didn't see this game that he doesn't want to see next game. If he opens like a Landorus, that can be really rough.
Yeah.
You have to absorb double damage from Seismitoad, which is not fun. Lucario is all right. It can have some utility, but again, it's an EX. Just in general, he runs a very item-heavy deck, and when your items get shut off, it hurts you quite a bit.
Yeah, knowing Chris, he was probably trying to target a few specific games in the metagame, or a few specific decks in the metagame. You know, probably thinking that Raichu would be really popular, or Mega Manectric EX would be really popular, and he goes with this really fighting-heavy deck, and he's saying, well, I'll just hope not to play against Seismitoad EX, and then, well, you play against Seismitoad
Yeah,
EX, and
that's
the risk you take.
That's what's so crazy about Nationals. Like you said, you have to survive 9 rounds and then 5 more rounds, and all the cut rounds. And once you go through all of that, you really have to take a risk. Almost always, you're taking a risk with the type of deck that you're playing. Just hoping that you run into good matchups. It's an odds game. Had we seen Chris match up against Simon, for example, he probably would have been having a bit better time with it.
Probably.
He even has fighting Pokemon that aren't weak to like the water counters that Simon was running.
Yeah. So it looks like we are ready for game number 2 and round number 2 between Chris Fulop and Caleb Johnson.
Caleb has grabbed himself game 1 and looking pretty strong to push forward through the rest of this. Chris is going to need some real Hawlucha action and hope that Caleb does not find either turn 1 Quaking Punch or especially not Quaking Punch, Hypnotoxic Laser, Verbank City, Crobats.
Yeah. This game looking much different already. Chris's side looks very familiar, starting with Hawlucha once again, but Caleb's starting off with his one Mewtwo EX, so he's not starting off with Seismitoad this time.
Oh, wow, yeah. Mewtwo is great for sort of closing out a game. It's a fun little tech card when you're running double colorless-based decks. You don't see it quite as much as you used to. It really ushered in the era of the EXs, but it is sort of part of this old guard. It's good, I guess, a nice little surprise play against Lucario EX. Chris Phillips is Psychic Weak. But otherwise, yeah, it's presenting a sort of a not Quaking Punch on Caleb's side of the field, unless you can like super scoop up and move it.
Right. Chris starting off pretty strong. It's 4 Zubat in play. Are we in a cave or something, Josh?
Oh, man. Encounters for days and no repels.
Yeah. Wow. All 4 Zubat on the field on the first turn. So he's going to have all sorts of ammunition for, Golbat next turn with those sneaky bite abilities and 2 Hawlucha. This is pretty much his perfect start.
And wisely, he has a Hawlucha up to absorb damage, but now he has one on the bench that he can actually put the energy on in case this one does fall. Caleb's hand, apparently not that great, just ending away right away.
Yeah, he had a double colorless energy in hand. He could have attached it to Mewtwo and just kind of settled on X-Ball, but using X-Ball for 40 against a Hawlucha, not too good, and he wants to keep his options open to be able to use Quaking Punch.
Yeah, you always want to give yourself a chance. Maybe he can get Super Scoop Up double Seismitoad. It's weird. It's asking a lot, but it isn't really, because we still do have Shaman in this metagame. He could see a lot of cards beyond just the 6 that he's getting from this N. And we do see Computer Search, the Old Faithful. Few Toads down.
Ooh, an Ultra Ball.
It could still happen.
Very well could. I think I even see 2 Shaman EX in his hand, so...
Oh, I thought there was 2 Toads.
Oh.
So I guess he's grabbing Toad here.
This turn
Toad
is
here and
far
then
from
Shaman
over.
to draw. Oh, man.
So yeah, Ultra Ball. Caleb's going to take this opportunity to take a look through his deck, see if any important cards are in his prize cards, that he might not have access to them for the rest of the game. So, gonna grab Seismitoad EX. He's pulled that aside, and yeah, I'm sure we have a couple Shaman EX ready to go, and Computer Search in his hand. So, we very well could see another Quaking Punch on the first turn.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at everything in Caleb's deck, it's probably going to come down to a coin flip, but I mean, if you can even bring it to that, you're starting Mewtwo EX at 2 retreat cost, and you could still potentially Quaking Punch this turn. That's pretty wild. He's drawing so many cards, too. Who knows? He could Shaman here first, discard more cards later with Computer Search, so he has less for the second Shaman. He could even get the whole Hypnotoxic Dream. It's asking a lot, but it is potential.
Yeah, there's Hypnotoxic Laser. He does have the Computer Search. He's going to play it just so he can thin out his hand a little bit more for that next Shaman EX to use set up for more cards. I wonder what he's going to take with this. He could take a double colorless energy. That'd probably be the biggest option. If he wants to take a bit of a risk, he could go with a Super Scoop Up. I'm interested to see what decision he made.
Yeah, it's where he's already sort of playing at a risky way. more conservative, I guess, would be just attaching the energy to the Seismitoad. That way you've got it there no matter what, and that's what he does opt for.
Yep.
But here we go. He could find a Super Scoop Up. Burbank City Gym in there, too. Oh, and no scoops. So, Chris sort of getting what he does want out of this matchup, and that is not a turn 1 Quaking Punch.
That's right. So at least Caleb gets the Burbank City Gym, puts the 3 damage counters on Hawlucha between turns, so that if that one does attack later, it'll be an easy knockout with a Quaking Punch with a Muscle Band.
Now, Fulop, he has a lot of options. The big thing I'm sure he would be really excited to see are some of those muscle bands. Basically any item card that he does like to play, probably play it now.
Chris playing a Super Scoop Up of his own gets heads and picks up that Hawlucha, undoes that poison damage.
I love that Piplup Super Scoop Up art. One of my faves.
Yeah.
But yeah, that actually, it's where Super Scoop Up just for healing 30 damage doesn't seem that strong, but in this matchup, it's a big deal because if you can get a Hawlucha to survive a single attack off of a Seismitoad EX, you get a lot more out of that deal than they do.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things here is, might as well play your item cards while you can. Even if that Super Scoop Up isn't doing much, it's better than drawing it later and then not being able to play it.
Yeah, I would rather Super Scoop Up to heal 30 now than have a dead card in my hand. As we saw, like Chris's last game, it was just nothing but dead weight.
Yeah. So Chris going with that same strategy he went with game 1. He's targeting down Caleb's Zubat before they can evolve. Uses the first Golbat ability to target down that Zubat. If he can find a second one, he'll get a quick knockout.
Well, he's digging for it. He certainly laid down enough bats to evolve.
Yeah, so at this point he can find another Golbat, an Ultra Ball, or even a Super Scoop Up. If he flips heads, he can pick up that Golbat and put it on another Zubat.
Don't know if I see any of those things.
I don't think so either.
Rough. There's Crobat ready to go next turn, but you definitely want to knock out that Zubat as quickly as possible. And here it looks like just a Flying Press from Hawlucha for just 60 damage.
Yeah, he actually opted to put the Muscle Band on the benched Hawlucha, probably assuming this would happen. Heads on the Super Scoop Up, just picking up that Mewtwo EX undoes that Flying Press attack, so may as well put the Muscle Band on the benched Hawlucha. The active one has a possibility of being knocked out.
Yeah, it was. It's rough. You want to you see a Mewtwo and you're like, okay, I want to give myself a shot to 2-shot this, but Mewtwo's gone. We're back to the days of the Toad.
Dark days are ahead.
They are. I mean, here Chris at least has the ammunition to deal with it, and a muscle banded Hawlucha, which is nice. But if Caleb can get this knockout, and there we see the bat and the laser, it's going to be really hard to come around. Colress as well for 8.
Yeah, you see Caleb being extra safe on this. Not only using the 2 damage from Golbat to put on Hawlucha, but also playing Hypnotoxic Laser. In case he misses the Muscle Band, he wants to make sure he gets this knockout.
Yeah, it is guaranteed now. I kind of like that play. We've seen Caleb doesn't always draw every single card he needs, although he's been finding a lot of the pieces. And this way, you can give yourself an extra turn before you really need a Muscle Band onto that Seismitoad. 1 energy for 30 damage is not a lot at all. It's really bad. Oh, he has it anyway, too.
Yeah. So
But,
that's a little disappointing for Caleb. You are kind of wasting damage. More importantly, you wasted a Hypnotoxic Laser, that's a huge part of your deck. You could have gotten the knockout anyway if you found that Muscle Band. So, I mean, one of the options would have been just take the risk, but he decides, you know what, if I'm just knocking out Hawlucha, I'm probably in a good spot.
Yeah, and he probably is. We do see a Crobat on Chris's side. Surprise Bite can drop 3 damage counters.
And it looks like he's continuing to push, knocking out Caleb's Golbat or Zubat, whatever bat he can find. Puts the 3 damage counters on Golbat. If he can find his own Golbat this turn, he could put 2 more damage counters on there and go for the knockout. You might consider just kind of giving up on that knockout since it's already evolved.
Yeah, once it's evolved once, the crazy thing is it can evolve again.
Yeah.
I think I would have preferred to see that damage perhaps on Seismitoad just to help sort of make sure that you can 2-hit knock it out with a Hawlucha. Yeah, they can reset those heals and such, but I feel like that's just a better placement of the counters, even on Shaman maybe, for some kind of Lysander easy prize knockout.
But he finds the Golbat, so he gets the knockout.
Wow.
And, that worked out. So now, he's taken the prize, taken away a Crobat option from Caleb. He's going to force him to have those hypnotoxic lasers. And also a Golbat going to hit a...
Another one. Wait, okay, well, there was some damage to be shared with Seismitoad and bats here. I did not realize this many bats are going to come into play.
Yep.
I guess that's what happens when you play for the zoo variety.
And there we do see, I think a Flying Press will be coming up. That'll do 100 damage thanks to the Muscle Band and the Strong Energy. So that Seismitoad's under a lot of pressure.
It's much better. And here we do see another Hypnotoxic Laser. This will guarantee the knockout on Hawlucha, which is unfortunate for Chris. You know, he's like, oh, I just got there, did all that work. Now he needs to find another Hawlucha and energy if he wants to knock out the Seismitoad. Actually, what is that, the left die? How much damage does this Seismitoad have total?
It should have 120, yeah.
Okay, so not quite in range of Crobat shenanigans
Right,
yet.
right.
But we could see, you know, like 2 attacks or something.
Well, if we see a Crobat Surprise Bite and then a Skill Dive,
That could work.
Yeah.
You can get
plenty of
yet another Crobat in play.
yeah, if you're Caleb here, you're obviously looking for another Seismitoad EX since this active one is looking like it's going to go down soon. But if you can get another Seismitoad EX and a Super Scoop Up Heads, that would be huge.
So let's see. Doesn't look like he has a replacement Toad,
Oh, Zubat works too.
but a Super Scoop Up Zubat works.
Gives you the
Goes
free
off
retreat.
off the table.
And
Heads.
heads.
Oh, that is crushing.
And you can see Chris, and yep, that's pretty good.
That's
So-
pretty good. It's a free heal. If he didn't have that Zubat with the free retreat, he couldn't free retreat those Shaman.
Yep. And that takes away pretty much every option Chris had to knock out this Seismitoad EX. Now it's completely reset, and you can see just how big Super Scoop Up is for, well, on Caleb's side. You know, Chris probably wishes he could play his own Super Scoop Up, but you can't. You can't play item cards.
And I think even regardless, if Caleb didn't have the Super Scoop Up option, Chris's hand does not look very good. I didn't see a supporter in there. I did not see an energy in there. Those are 2 things that you need to win Pokemon trading card games.
Yes, usually. If you're not attacking, you're probably not winning most of the time.
Yeah. It's just like a bunch of items. A Lysander that he can play in Desperation. Can't even attack with the Crobat, which is a huge bummer. And he just lost, like 120 damage counters. It's rough.
Yeah, he is going to go for the Lysander, bringing out the Shaman EX. You know, common strategy we see against Seismitoad EX. You play a Lysander on a Pokemon, trying to prevent your opponent from being able to use Quaking Punch, but Caleb does have an energy to be able to retreat. You know, if he missed an energy there and had to pass the turn, Chris would get a turn of playing item cards again, so it's worth going for that. But Caleb, again, I mean, he's got the options.
It's sort of a great desperation play. Often a lot better when you've paired it with an N at the end of the game. But Caleb, unfortunately, he's got the energy. He's got all these cards he can draw.
Yeah, so now we're going to see a Chorus for 8 cards, and that's pretty big.
There we go. We got the right Shaman EX down. We've
Yeah.
seen a few. It was Revenge Blast. That's been a while.
Yeah, this Shaman is slightly better, I would say. But yeah,
Yeah,
8.
a little bit. Not to knock the other Shaman. It's a tiny bit of glory. This one, though, new and improved.
Yeah, so we see the Chorus for 8 cards. This has just been a constant theme of this series so far. Caleb drawing tons of cards, getting exactly what he needs since he's able to play those item cards. Chris just kind of stalling out. He's got a handful of item cards. You know, he gets kind of an explosive spurt at the beginning and then just draws nothing the rest of the game.
Yeah, this is a very hard matchup to deal with. Obviously, he does have an energy now, but it's one of those things, you know. You wish you could have used this to get a knockout on a Seismitoad. You want to knock out your opponent's Toads, slow down their flow, but it's so hard to do when you're fighting this battle where you have all these items and you can't use them. There's not a ton of counters to a Seismitoad that Quaking punches, and that's why it's such a popular card in the deck, or a popular deck in the metagame. But on Chris's side, his one option there is just Hawlucha and hope that damage sticks. But when you're Caleb and you run all these super scoop ups and AZ and different ways to pick up the damage, it's very hard to get a complete knockout.
Yeah, that was kind of a sad play on Chris's end because, I mean, you send up the Hawlucha, you hit for 100 damage, but it's already got 2 damage counters on it. So you know it's not going to survive the turn. Usually when you set up a Hawlucha, it's a pretty, it's fresh. It's got 70 HP. It has some hope of surviving an attack, but this is not the case.
And did we just see bat damage on the Hawlucha?
I think so.
I think Caleb might even be fishing for a Golbat just to knock out Hawlucha before he even has to do an attack.
Yep, that would be pretty bad. Pretty bad for Chris.
That's why these bats are so good. One of the things, and this really has changed the matchup. The last time we saw sort of like a Seismitoad up against Hawlucha and bats, it was just a straight Seismitoad variant without any Crobats.
Yeah.
Now that you have the Crobats, that's just an easy way to make sure you're almost always knocking out Hawlucha in one hit.
Yeah, and not just the Crobat. The Super Scoop Up is huge as well. I think we didn't see that in the Seismitoad deck the last time we featured it. So, man, Chris is just on the wrong side of a bad matchup right now.
Yeah, and it's a shame. This is a bad matchup, but I do think he's actually playing a fairly smart play from what I've seen. It's great against Raichu, great against Manectric. I feel like those are the two big decks you want to counter. But sometimes then you run into something like this. It's a little bit worse.
So we are going to see Crobat with a surprise bite, putting 3 damage counters on that active Seismitoad EX. Fighting Stadium coming out to kick out that Burbank City Gym. But I don't think Chris has any supporter cards again, so he's just kind of stalling out once again, unable to do anything.
No energy either. Like, he's almost in range where he could start dealing enough damage to maybe knock out one Seismitoad and push from there.
Oh,
but,
man. Caleb just...
Speak of the devil.
Rubbing salt in the wound. Gets the Crobat surprise bite. Knocks out Chris's Crobat on the bench. Plays the AZ. Picks up the whole Crobat line back to his hand. And now he gets to reset that line and get another Golbat and Crobat. That's 5 more damage counters he can use.
I feel so bad. Chris, I feel like every single time we stream, Chris Fulop's like, get me on the stream. If I've won a game and I'm at the top of the pools, put me in. Put me in, coach.
Yeah.
Finally gets put in. And this is unfortunately just not a place for Chris to display his decade of Pokemon experience.
Yeah, and this is a really bad spot for Chris because he knows Caleb has a Golbat in his hand. So, I mean, if he retreats to his Golbat, it won't survive the turn. It'll get hit by the Sneaky Bite for 2 damage counters and then a Quaking Punch. So there's really no good Pokemon for him to promote here, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, pretty much everything is going to fall next turn, so it's just deciding, okay, who do I need to part with?
Oh, man, and another heads on Super Scoop Up.
Oh, boy.
Caleb just absolutely shutting down every option Chris might even think about having.
That does not help. It turns out if you're able to continue to pick up your Pokemon, whether it be Super Scoop Up or AZ, and you can't deal one-hit knockouts to retaliate, it's just the perfect storm.
And Chris continuing to draw cards like Versus Seeker that he can't even play. Gets an energy, finally, and he can do 30 damage.
Yeah. He's sort of laughing at Seismitoad. Look, I can do 30 damage too. I just don't lock your item cards.
Yeah, so here, this will probably be the last turn of the game. We do see Ultra Ball discarding 2 cards, and he's going to grab that Golbat, put the 2 damage counters on. Looks like he's actually going to win the game in style. Golbat and Crobat, sneaky surprise bites, knocking out a Zubat for the game.
Yeah, that's how you do it. I am the real bats here. Go back to your cave.
Yeah, so pretty brutal matchup for Chris there. He's going to fall to Caleb, who plays an incredible game. I mean, he played flawlessly, pulled off his Quaking Punches when he needed to, flipped a few heads in Super Scoop Up, and at the end of the day, his Crobats win out over Chris's.
And it's like we were saying, you can cut out Lysander's trump card, which was one of the strongest cards we've seen aid Seismitoad. But people seem to forget, Seismitoad has always been a good deck in this metagame.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to run it. It's like, okay, well, now that I am no longer running 4 Shaman, some people are running Garbodor. Some people are running Crobat, like we just saw now.
Yeah, I mean, Seismitoad EX has been powerful since it came out. Probably hit the peak of its power right when Roaring Skies came out. Now it's knocked down a peg maybe, but still obviously one of the top decks.
Yeah, it might not be going to the Hall of Fame, but he's still going to show up at the All-Star game.
Absolutely. So I wonder if we'll see more Seismitoad decks throughout the rest of the tournament, but it looks like we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll have an interview with Caleb.